Hello everybody out there, Jay Recher here with you, and it's the end of the year, and I figured, why don't we look back at 2018 and figure out who are the top 15 Tampa Bay sports stars. What I did was I polled all of our talent here at 95.3 WDAE, and I asked them to list me 1 to 10 what they thought and who they thought was the top stars of 2018 here in Tampa Bay. So what I did was I took all of the names that they gave me, and it ended up to be about 32, 33 names. So I cut it down to about 15. 20 seemed a little long. 10, a little too short. I didn't want to leave anybody out. So I went to the top 15 sports stars here in Tampa Bay. And of course, I'd love to hear from you. Give me some feedback. We're here on Facebook Live. We'll do our best to podcast this and share this later. We're loving the debate here. We want to make sure that we're promoting this debate. And I want to hear from you. I know you're going to disagree with some, but we're going to go around. John Mamola is dying to find out where his selections landed. Great idea. Thank you so much. So as we go on, we got a nice little PowerPoint presentation for you. I know the lighting's a little wonky, but I'm doing my best here. I'm a radio guy. I'm not a PowerPoint guy, but I think I did a decent job. So feel free to put there at the bottom what you think and rank them. John Toomey's already throwing guys out there. Put some names down, and we'll start with number 15 on the list so far. Number 15, Kevin Kiermaier. And looking at Kevin Kiermaier and the year he had, I know he's been dealing with a lot of injuries the last couple of years, but you're looking at a guy that's a two-time Gold Glover. He was a Gold Glover in 15 and 16, a Platinum Glove defender in 2015 for the best defender in the American League. He comes in at number 15. He was on some of the lists, not on all the lists. Sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind, but when you look at Kevin Kiermaier, he's definitely a star. And that's the thing, is I left the interpretation kind of open for a lot of our guys here at 95.3 WDAE. It's not so much about who's the best player. We're not ranking, 1 to 15 who you think is the best. We're talking about the biggest star. Who's got the biggest star power? As our VP of programming, Tommy Chuck, says, it's about if you saw him walking through the mall, who's the most recognizable. I like that, that kind of thing right there. But I also put kind of success. Who had a really good 2018? Who's had some sustained success? Like we said, Kevin Kiermaier banged up in 2018, but still a star, no doubt. And you look at outside of sports as well. What are they doing as far as on the national stage? What are they doing as far as commercials and TV and their presence? And when you think of Tampa Bay sports, do you think about this person? I think Kevin Kiermaier, number 39, the center fielder for the Rays, is definitely one of those guys. Number 14, Eric Neander, the Senior VP of Baseball Operations and the General Manager for the Tampa Bay Rays. I got this idea from up in New York over the holidays. I was with my parents. They did the top 20 stars in New York, and they just kept it to athletes. But I felt like with something like this, I feel like it's a little more important than just athletes, because there are guys in the front office that are just as important to their team as the guys that play on an everyday basis. So Eric Neander, you look at the job that he and Chaim Bloom, who also got a bunch of votes as well, look at the impact that they had this year. Just a phenomenal job. A lot of people before the season were looking at it and saying, these guys are crazy. They don't know what the hell they're doing. But you look at how everything matriculated throughout the season. The Rays turned into a 90-win team, and the strength and the foresight of a guy like Eric Neander is a big reason why. John Mamola says Neander was his number 1. Wow, the rest of the guys don't respect upper management. Nothing about you, though. They're like you. John Toomey, good choice. I like Eric Neander. Let's move on to number 13. This is a guy that I had much higher on my list. We're not going to go in depth of what everybody's top 10 list, but at the end, after I reveal all 15, I'm going to give you my top 10 and a little sneak peek. Gerald Mccoy is pretty high up on my list. You look at Gerald McCoy, a 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, or first-team All-Pro. And for me, a guy like Gerald McCoy, the reason why I put him so high on my list is because the guy was on Family Feud. He's one of those guys that everybody knows in the NFL. I know he's a polarizing figure. Some people think he's overrated here in Tampa Bay. Some people think he's underappreciated. Pretty sad yesterday in the last game to see him. Very emotional. Could be his last game in Tampa Bay in a Buccaneers uniform. But this is a guy that is a pillar in this community. Never a bad thing about him. Whatever he does, it seems to be like he's a guy that says and does all the right things. On the field, he does a great job. As I mentioned, 6-time Pro Bowler. Gerald McCoy, always friendly, talkative to the media. Definitely a star in my eyes. And I mentioned, he was on Family Feud. Doesn't get much bigger than that. Number 12, a little surprised that this guy was so low on the list, Victor Hedman. You know about his all-star appearances. You know about him winning the Norris Trophy last year. Assistant equipment manager last year in the all-star game because he was out with that injury. But one of the best players in not just the Tampa Bay, on just the Tampa Bay Lightning, but in the entire NHL. Probably the premier defenseman of this generation. There's so many good Swedish defensemen when you look at Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Erik Karlsson, but when you look at the size and the speed and the talent and the back check ability and skating ability for a guy like Victor Hedman, number 12 on the list, but certainly one of the best players here in Tampa Bay and a bona fide star, that's for sure. Number 11, the wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans. And how about the job that he's done this year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? He's had a heck of a 2018. He broke the single-season record for the Buccaneers, the youngest player to have over 6,000 yards receiving, or the quickest and the youngest. And after his performance against the Atlanta Falcons yesterday, what a great player he's been, a high draft pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that first round. Some people wanted Johnny Manziel, some people wanted some different players out there, but Mike Evans has been a home run pick for them and constantly atop the list when it comes to top defensemen in the league. And when you look at a guy like Mike Evans, not voted to the Pro Bowl this year, but he as well as another guy on our list, I think he will. When the injuries start coming down and then guys don't go to the Pro Bowl because they're in the Super Bowl, I think Mike Evans eventually finds his way in. I think he's number 3. He finished overall in receiving yards this year. Another great year for Mike Evans, and you're looking at a guy, if he stays on this pace, not only is he going to be a future member of the Ring of Honor here in Tampa Bay for the Buccaneers, but one day a Hall of Famer. All right, what I wanted to do at this point now is I wanted to go over the honorable mention list. There's a couple guys up there, and you can look at it right here. Some of the guys that didn't make the list, they fell just outside. And you look at some of the guys here. Hey, Yoko, how you doing? Some of the honorable mentions. A guy like Titus O'Neil. This is a person, when you think of stars, on and off, inside and outside the ring for somebody like that. But the thing that he does, just being such a great representative of Tampa Bay, going all across, not just the country, but all across the world. And the TED Talk he had at UCLA was just, it was epic. Look that up. If you put that in your Google machine, you'll love that. But just the benevolent things that he does to just make Tampa Bay a better place. John Toomey says, Titus, worldwide? Exactly. No, I know you can't read it because of the lighting, so I'm just going to read them off to you. John Cooper on there as well. Big-time coach with the Tampa Bay Lightning. You can blame 93 FLZ. Tony Dungy and Joe Madden also made this list as well. Just guys that, I know they don't coach here anymore, but they still have a big footprint in this community. Tony Dungy with his All-Pro dads, and then Joe Madden with Thanksmas. We still have such a great relationship with them. Derrick Brooks as well, double nickels, Hall of Famer. You know what he does here in the community. Brooks DeBartolo and all his years with the Tampa Bay Storm. We're trying to get him, if we can, to get him in charge of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in some way. The last 3, Julian Brisebois, the new GM. Joe still does stuff in the community. Yes, sure does. Julian Brisebois, the new general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning, has done a phenomenal job taking over now for Steve Yzerman. I think he's done a great job, and I think he is more than ready to take over what Steve Yzerman has started here in Tampa Bay. So a shout out to Julian Brisebois. And the last 2, Rob Higgins, the man for the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. The reason why we get all these big games here. Rob Higgins, a big friend of us here at the station at 95.3 WDAE. Just a perfect man for the job. And when you put Rob Higgins in a room with all these guys and they have to decide where they're going to have their Super Bowls and their Final Fours, that guy is a closer. I know a closer is more of a baseball term, but my man Rob Higgins, he should definitely be on the honorable mention. And last but certainly not least, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic. It was real this year with the beards. There was people with the beards rocking them. They had the T-shirts, the bling-bling that he had. He really was a worldwide sensation this year, so not surprised that Ryan Fitzpatrick made this list in the honorable mention section. All right, let's get back to the list. At number 10, and we just mentioned him just now, Steve Yzerman, the general manager, or the former on-the-way-out general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning, a Hall of Fame career in Detroit with the Red Wings. I'll never forget that goal he had in overtime against the St. Louis Blues and Grant Fuhr to send the Detroit Red Wings to the next round. But what a phenomenal job he's done here for the Tampa Bay Lightning. just remember some of the hard decisions that he's had to make, the whole Jonathan Drouin thing, and hey, you can go sit there, I don't care, and then holds on to him, and then boom, trades him for a guy like Mikhail Sergachev. The whole idea of trading Ben Bishop and putting the reins and putting all that faith into a guy like Andrei Vasilevsky. And not just that, you trade Ben Bishop to the Kings and you get a guy like Eric Chernak who's making a huge impact on the team this year. Steve Yzerman, you want to talk about leaving a place better than you found it, and that's exactly what Stevie Y has done. We're all blessed to have him be part of this community and be part of this Tampa Bay Lightning team. And for those of you that are worried about him, just kind of bolting and leaving and not having anything to do with the team, I've still seen him in the majority of the games this year. He's still up in the press box talking to Julian Brisebois. There's no better situation than, I think, if you're trying to go from one of the general managers, you're passing the torch to somebody. I think it couldn't have been an easier transition than Steve Yzerman to Julian Brisebois. Number 9, this guy is a budding star in the NHL. I was actually a little surprised that he was so high on the list. Brayden Point. You saw the All-Star appearance last year. I remember sitting there with Brayden Point during media day, and he was like, what do I do? And I was like, you sit here and you wait for everybody to come talk to you. Because I was the first one over there, and I just sat there, and he's like, can I leave? I'm like, no, everybody's coming over here. And by the time we stopped talking, we turned around, and there was like a horde of 30 people coming over to us. I'll never forget that moment. And Brayden just said, thanks, Jay. And I was like, I'm leaving. You got to stay. Just one of the best two-way forwards in the entire NHL. I mean, you're starting to put him up with the guys of the likes of Patrice Bergeron and Anze Kopitar and Jonathan Toews. I mean, he really is of that ilk. I've seen a lot of NHL writers this year just say that he is one of the top 5 centers in the league. And when you look at, not offensively, because we know how well he does offensively, putting the puck in the net and setting up his teammates, but defensively. I mean, there was a time in 3 games this year where in succession he shut down Connor McDavid, Taylor Hall, and Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, you're looking at 3 of the probably top 5 or 6 players in the NHL. You stick Brayden Point, blackjack Brayden on him, and he shuts them down. Number 9, well-deserved for Brayden Point. Number 8, coming off the heels of a darn good, successful season for the Tampa Bay Rays, Kevin Cash, the manager of the year finalist this year. It's just been crazy. Kevin Cash, if we made this list last year, I don't even know if he makes the team. The Dirk Cutter, who got let go yesterday by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, didn't get any votes on our list, not surprising. A couple votes here and there for Charlie Strong. Just surprised if we did this for 2017 where Kevin Cash would rank, but a great year for him. The employment of the closer. What a great job by Kevin Cash. Comes in at number 8 on our list. 90-win team for the Tampa Bay Rays. The sky's the limit for this team. And I think for the first time going into a season since he's been here, I think a lot of people are very, very confident that Kevin Cash is the guy, the right guy to lead the Rays towards the 2019 season and beyond. Number 7. This was the guy that I was really curious to see. Where was everybody going to have him on the list? Jameis Winston, the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He made that Pro Bowl. He was the Pepsi Rookie of the Year. 88 touchdowns, the most touchdowns thrown by a quarterback age 25 and younger. And you know all the bad things that has gone on for him and his career on and off the field. But you look at the production offensively, over 300 yards yesterday. You saw the rapport he has with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And whether you like it or not, again, this is not the best players. You're looking at a guy like Jameis Winston, and you're saying he's a star. I mean, he's a polarizing figure. Everybody talks about Jameis Winston, whether it's here locally in the 813 or 727 or nationally. If Buccaneers news comes up, Jameis Winston is usually one of the top storylines. So you look at a guy like him, I like his spot at number 7. Number 6, very also curious to see where this guy ended up. Jason Pierre-Paul, defensive end for the Buccaneers, Super Bowl champion with the New York Giants, a 2-time Pro Bowler. He's another guy like Mike Evans that I think that didn't make the Pro Bowl, but I think he's the first alternate. Evans was the first alternate. I believe he was the third alternate. I think eventually JPP will get in there. What a great year for the Buccaneers. A great trade by Jason Light. For those who don't like Jason Light, a great move acquiring Jason Pierre-Paul for a 3rd-round pick. You're looking at a guy with 71 sacks in his career. He had 12.5 this season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's been just as good as advertised. And when you think of stars and you think about guys that, their names ring a bell, they have that star power. Jason Pierre-Paul is definitely one of them. Some people didn't have JPP on the list. Another guy, John Momola, says, wonder why Adam Humphries hasn't been mentioned list. He wasn't on the honorable mention, but he did get a number of votes. I was actually surprised with how many votes he did have. I think Adam Humphries is a great player. I don't know, is he a star, though? If he was walking through the mall, would you know who Adam Humphries was? I don't know. JPP, Jameis Winston, I think that's another story. All right, let's go into a little bit of a review. Let's count down from 15 all the way to 6. We had Kevin Kiermaier coming in at 15, Neander 14, Gerald McCoy at number 13, Victor Hedman at number 12, Mike Evans at 11, Steve Yzerman, the on the way out, the transitioning general manager for the Tampa Bay Lightning at number 10, Braden Point, a centerman for the Bolts at number 9, Kevin Cash at number 8, Jameis Winston at number 7, and then Jason Pierre-Paul at number 5. And this is what you've all been waiting for. Number 5, the top 5 sports stars in Tampa Bay. And again, we want to hear from you. What do you think on there? Put your opinions there. We're going to share this later on, and we're going to try to keep this conversation going throughout the year. We're going to do this pretty much as long as I'm here at 95.3 WDAE. On December 31st, we're going to look back. We're going to get the opinions of guys like John Momola, Steve Carney, Ronnie and T-Kraz, Ron and Ian, Pat and Aaron, Barringer, Martez, Blobner, Trey Downey, Chris Sektig, Tommy Chuck, and everybody else. I think I got everybody in there. So thank you for all your contributions. But now, the top 5 stars in Tampa Bay of 2018. Number 5, Nikita Kucherov, an all-star, a league leader in scoring right now, one of the best players in the entire NHL. And from what I'm hearing this year, just watching a lot of games this year, there's people thinking that Nikita Kucherov is the best player, not just the top scorer in the league, but the best player in the NHL right now. It's hard to go against him. I mean, you're scoring 9-10 points over 2-game stretches. You're leading the league in scoring. He's got a rifle of a shot. He's one of the most deft passers in the league. He's just an incredible player. And when I think about it now, man, think about it. You're starting to see him more in commercials. And he changed up his agent about 2 years ago. I think he got the same agent as Tyler Johnson because he realized, like, hey, man, I'm one of the best players. I need to make sure that I'm getting my name and I'm getting my face out there. I'm using my, I'm improving my brand. So Nikita Kucherov, I mean, I was looking at it, number 5 on the list. There's some people that had him higher. Some people had him as high as number 2, number 3. But as Steve Carney says, he's your father's brother, Uncle Cooch, coming in at number 5. Number 4, his Russian brethren for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Andrei Vasilevsky. Vezina finalist from last year. I mean, this guy is a star in the making. His star is shining as bright as anybody's, I think, here in Tampa Bay. You're looking at a guy that I think you can make an argument better for him than Cooch, that he's the best goalie in the world right now. He's incredible. Forget about the goals against and the save percentage. Sometimes the numbers don't tell the whole stories, but just look at some of the freaking saves this guy has had. The behind-the-back save, the back heel saves. I mean, I can't even move my body in the ways that he does to save these pucks. It is so incredible to me. Last year, finishing 3rd in the Vezina Trophy finalist, and as a Vezina Trophy finalist, I think he wins it this year. You may have a Freddie Anderson. He's banged up now. I know Vasi was out for a month, but the Lightning keep winning at this clip, and he's the guy between the pipes. Those games that he missed and those wins that he missed, he's going to get them back in his ledger. I think it's going to go back. It's going to be up there. I think you got to go Andrei Vasilevsky, and I'm not surprised that he's number 4 on our list. All right, number 3. Is it a player? Is it a coach? No, it is an owner. Jeffrey Vinick coming in at number 3. What more can you say about Jeffrey Vinick? I mean, he's such a benevolent man. He is a guy that is just so selfless. And just talking to him, he's not one of those guys that's just throwing his money at problems, or a guy that, up front or out in front or out in public, he's a good dude. This guy he's, what do you call it, the salt of the earth. I mean, this is what he is, man. He came here to Tampa Bay to make a difference. From taking all the seats out at Amalie Arena and putting cushioned seats in there so you can enjoy being the Thunder, to all the money that he gives out every single year. It's just crazy, man. Just the $50,000, the community heroes, the military appreciation. He's done such a good job as the owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he really has just invested more than just his money, his time and his effort, and putting these guys in the right position to be able to have them do their job to the utmost of their ability, to get a guy like Steve Yzerman, and then to be hands-off and say, Stevie Y, you're the hockey guy, go do your thing. The whole Julian Brisebois thing, Al Murray, the director of scouting, this guy doesn't micromanage. He puts the right people in place, and it's no surprise that a couple years ago, the ESPN voted them as the #1 franchise in all of sports. Jeffrey Vinick, I mean, it doesn't happen without him. So I'll show you where he is in my list there in a little bit. Yes, very self-serving photos, John Mamola. I had to find my own because we can't use anybody else's. We don't want to worry about copyright infringement or anything like that. So Jeffrey Vinick coming in at number 3. All right, 2 more. Who do you think it is? There's 2 more guys left. Top 15 sports stars of Tampa Bay here in 2018. 2 guys are left. Who are they? Who comes in at number 2? Coming in at number 2, number 91 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Steven Stamkos, a 5-time All-Star. He's on a tear. He's another guy right now. It's just unbelievable. What a great season. And he's just been a guy that, you know, he could have went for more money. He could have went back home, but he stayed here. And you look at last year, the All-Star game, and just how proud he was. Man, it was just an incredible moment. I talked to him after the skills competition, and I think before the game, and I said, Stammer, how is it? And he just looked at me. He said, this is awesome. This is everything I expected it to be. He was on the stage last year with PK Subban and our good buddy Scotty Davis, who's now with US 103.5. At the time, he was with 93.3 FLZ. I Heart Love, giving you guys a shout-out as well. He just loved the pageantry of everything, and this guy is one of the most respected players in the NHL. He's on commercials. He's just one of the top guys. He's one of the best goal scorers of this generation. Very Lightning heavy list. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, you have so many guys, so many upstanding dudes that are just, they're stars. I mean, you look at the guys we've had so far. We've had Stamkos. We've had Vasi. We've had Kucherov. We've had the owner, Vinick. We've had Braden Point. We've had Yzerman. We've had Hedman. I mean, it's so crazy to think how many guys from the Tampa Bay Lightning are on this list, but Steven Stamkos is the captain, and one of these days, and hopefully soon, he's going to be the guy that Gary Bettman says, Steven Stamkos, come grab this Stanley Cup, and when he hoists that baby over his head, everybody will rejoice here in Tampa Bay. Who's your guest for number 1? Phil Esposito, the Glazers, Tyler Johnson? Who could it be? Who is number 1? We'll give you a guess. We're gonna do this long dramatic pause. Give me some guess if you're watching right now. Who do you think is number 1? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bilake. Number 1. You want to talk about a self-serving photo? This one's for me and Steve Carney right here from Rays Fan Fest. I don't know, did I? Man, I didn't turn the photo around. That's the only one I didn't turn around. Blake Snell, the reigning AL Cy Young winner from the Tampa Bay Rays. How about Blake Snell at number 1? And you know what? With all of the Lightning players, I thought it was going to be Jeffrey Vinick. I thought it could have been Steven Stamkos. Maybe you go with the Jameis Winston, or maybe some of the football guys. Blake Snell came in at number 1. He was on everybody's list. He had not only the most votes from everybody, and I ranked them. And you know, I had everybody give their top 10 guys, and then I gave who they had number 1 at 10 points, and then went all the way down to who they had at number 1 number 10. Excuse me, got 1 point. So Blake Snell was in everybody's top 10, every single person that voted, and for the majority of them, he was number 1 or number 2. Pretty crazy, but I mean, you look at the season that he had, an epic performance, the best pitching performance that we've seen in the Tampa Bay Rays history. I know David Price won a Cy Young as well, but when you look how dominant Blake Snell was, not just with this season with the Tampa Bay Rays, but who he faced, how good he did against teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees. And you got to give all credit to Steve Carney, because of all the bashing that he gave Steve Carney. He goes off in 2018. So we're hoping that Steve Carney bashes the heck out of somebody else so that they have a phenomenal year as well. So that's our 1 through 15. Let's take a look at the entire list now from 15 to 1. Again, Kiermaier, Neander, McCoy, Hedman, and Evans. Then you got Yzerman, Point, Cash, Winston, JPP, and then Kucherov at 5, Vasi at 4, Vinick 3, Stamkos 2, and Blake Snell at 1. So here's my list here. If you guys look here, I had Jeffrey Vinick at number 1. I just think that nothing happens here in Tampa Bay when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning, when it comes to channel side. to me, I think none of that happens. A lot of these guys aren't here right now without Jeffrey Vinick. So when you look at the importance, the star, I think Jeffrey Vinick is number one. Number two, I had Gerald McCoy. And I know people are looking at it like, what are you, nuts? I just think a guy like Gerald McCoy, when you think about it, he, to me, is the most well-known figure when it comes to athletes in Tampa Bay. If you ask NFL fans all over the country, the biggest sport in the country, everybody knows who Gerald McCoy is. He was on Family Feud. Did I mention that? I'm a big Family Feud guy. Multiple commercials. He was on the show The League. I just think when you think of stars, a six-time All-Star, six-time Pro Bowler, a guy that could make it maybe, again, one or two times, a fringe Hall of Famer, I think, to me, Gerald McCoy. Steven Stamkos, I had him at 3. I had Victor Hedman a lot higher than our list. I had him at number 4. Being a Norris Trophy winner, I thought he deserved to be up there. I had Snell at 5, Vasilevsky at 6, Pierre-Paul at 7, Kucherov at 8, Mike Evans at 9, and then tied at 10, I had Jameis Winston and Titus O'Neil. I had to put Titus in there. What an unbelievable job that he does in the community again. And even though he's not a sports star per se, sports entertainment from the WWE, I had to get him on my list somehow. So that is it. That is all I've got for you. Again, big thank you to everybody at 95.3 WDAE for their contributions, and thank you, listeners, this year for all your support. It's been great, switching from 620 WDAE to 95.3 WDAE and all the lineup changes that we had. Just a crazy year here in Tampa Bay, and no shortage of sports stories from the Eastern Conference Final run from the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Rays, their surprising 90-win season, the high hopes for the Bucs, the whole Jameis Winston saga, Dirk Cutter getting fired. It's just been crazy. I wonder how the next couple of years are going to unfold. Hopefully next year we'll get some USF love on there as well, some love for Jose Fernandez and Charlie Strong. Hopefully the football and the basketball teams will continue to rise, and we'll do this again next year, man. So again, appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everybody for their support, and we're going to be posting this everywhere, up on our pages, up on the Ron and Ian page, on my page, Sports Life with Jay Recher as well, and we're going to be tweeting this out. So this is going to be a hot topic of conversation. So get your pitchforks out. Let us know who you think are the top 10, top 15 sports stars of Tampa Bay in 2018. Love to hear from you. Remember to follow me at JRetro. Follow the station at 95.3 WDAE. Thanks again for everything, and Happy New Year. We'll talk to you next time right here on 95.3 WDAE.